A lot of SEO advice for real estate agents is a waste of time. It'll get you traffic, but no clients. When I first started trying to grow my website, I made all the wrong moves. I made content about the best coffee shops, the best smoothie bars, things to do around town, where to find the coolest hiking trails. My traffic grew, but I didn't get any leads. So in this video, I'm gonna share 5 actionable real estate SEO tips that will change the way you think about your website and get you more clients, not just clicks. Now this applies whether you're starting a website from scratch or you're trying to revamp an existing website. By the way, my name is Jacob. Welcome to the channel. I do marketing and SEO in the real estate space. And towards the end, I'm also going to show you some examples of shitty real estate content and some good real estate content that actually drives leads. Let's get right to it. First up, getting more traffic to your website doesn't pay the bills, but getting more leads does, if you can close them, because that's sometimes the hard part. So tip number 1 is start with keywords that convert. You want to start by focusing on high intent keywords that sometimes have search volume so low they don't even show up on traditional keyword research tools like Answer the Public, Ahrefs, SEMrush, or Keywords Everywhere. So here's how you do this. You want to start with keywords like sell my house, blank, new homes in blank, living in blank, moving to blank, where blank is the area you live in, work in, or it's just one of the towns or the neighborhoods you do a lot of business and you would like to get more sellers and buyers in that area. Now, I'll talk about this more in a minute, but what I recommend doing is picking 2, 3, or 4 core areas when you start doing SEO on your website. A core area is a town or a city where you want to get more clients. You know the area well, you live there, you do a lot of work there, or you're just there a lot, where if you get a client in that area, you've got it handled. You know people, you might have off-market listings, you know how the market works in that part of town. So the core areas you choose should really be like the bread and butter areas of your real estate business. I'll give you a real life example from a website I work on for a real estate team here in St. Louis. Now we have an article that I did a while back titled Best Things to Do in Old Town Cottleville. Cottleville is one of these agents' core areas, and on a good month, it'll do 800 to 1,000 visitors to this article. I don't think they've ever gotten a lead that they've worked with saying they read this article. Now, I recommend always asking your leads that come through your website, how'd they find you, what articles do they read, just to get some feedback. Now, we have this other article on living in Lake St. Louis. Again, another one of my agent's core areas. Now, this article will usually get like maybe 150 views a month, maybe 200 on a good month. We sold a $1.3 million waterfront to a buyer who came literally just through this article, and we've got about 3 buyers actively looking for waterfronts right now. The waterfront market here is kind of tough. It is competitive. There's low inventory, both on market and off market. So sometimes it takes a while to find buyers a good place in this area, but we've got 3 solid leads actively looking right now. So the market's kind of tough, but this is an example of an article we've done that is one of many like this that generates good buyer leads. Now, some keywords that you might think about going after that probably aren't the best idea are going to be keywords like things to do in blank, best coffee shops in, best restaurants in, best parks in, best gyms in. You get the point. Now, knowing what to write on your website and then writing it is just the first step. This next tip is where a lot of people go wrong. It is easier to rank number 1 on Google when you already have a page ranking somewhere on Google and then taking that to number 1 than it is to create a whole new page from scratch and try to rank that number 1. So tip number 2 is to revisit and upgrade your existing content. So don't keep going down the rabbit hole of creating new article after new article after new article. Once you start to have enough content that ranks and gets traffic to your website, you got to come back to revisit and improve that content. As long as that content is relevant and high enough intent to the kind of clients you want to work with in the areas you want to work with. So that should be things like all of the keywords I just talked about in tip number 1. Now, here's how we're going to do this. You need to look at your keyword data with a tool like Ahrefs. That's what I personally use. And we're going to split our keywords into a couple different buckets. First up, we're going to go in there and we're going to filter keywords for any keyword that is ranking between positions 2 and 15. These are your first priority keywords. These are keywords where you're already doing a good job. If you're ranking between 2 and 15 on Google, job well done. You just need to give it a little bit of a bump. These are pages where you can just make some small tweaks, optimize the page, and hopefully get it to rank number 1. I highly recommend using a tool like Rankability to do this. So let's say you put in your existing article and you've got a rankability score of 50. Now, the rankability score is like a measure of relevance. So how relevant your content is to that keyword based on the existing top 10 results. So let's say you got a score of 50 right now, but if you can make a few tweaks, maybe add a couple sentences, try to just make the content better, more in depth. And let's say you can get that article to a rankability score of 85. Job well done. I would say give it a few weeks and just pay attention to see how it does, to see if you notice an increase in your ranking. And then keep doing that for all your main keywords that are ranking somewhere between 2 and 15. Now, second bucket of keywords is going to be your keywords that are ranking anywhere from 16 to 50 on Google. These are going to be your second priority keywords, and these are keywords where you need to upgrade the content. Now, when I say upgrade for the second priority as opposed to optimize your first priority, it means you need to put some more work into these pages. You probably need to add some more content, so add some more paragraphs. See if there's a section that's maybe missing that would make sense to add to this article. You might need to restructure the article, so think about the order you're discussing things in. Try to cover as much ground as you can. You might need to add some more relevant images, maps, graphics, just to make your content thorough and helpful to the reader on the other side of the screen. And the reason I say that this is a second priority keyword is because there's going to be a little bit more work involved when you're ranking further down on Google compared to those first priority keywords. Now, third priority is you want to filter for your keywords that are ranking somewhere between 51 and 100 or beyond 100. Now, if you're ranking this low on Google, it is likely that whatever this page is that's ranking that far down is not a good enough match for that keyword you're trying to rank for. What that means is that you should probably spend some time creating a brand new article for that keyword specifically. Now, what you might notice is that the keyword that you're ranking pretty low for might be something you mention in this page, or it's a topic you cover, but it's not the main focus for this page. Now, there's a whole lot I could say on keyword research. If you want to watch a separate video, I do have one right up here that's all about keyword research. Now, here's an example that I'll show you for one of these third priority keywords. So we have an article called Moving to O'Fallon, Missouri, your 2025 relocation guide. And we rank number 1 for moving to O'Fallon. But that article also ranks number 60 on Google for new housing developments in O'Fallon. Now, I have a whole section on that article discussing new construction and new developments because there's a lot of that in O'Fallon. But that is not the main focus of the article, because the article as a whole discusses things like different neighborhoods, the real estate market, cost of living, some of the main shopping areas in town, different parks you can go to, and some of the big employers in town. So that article is not specific enough to new construction to rank well for that new construction keyword. So I need a separate article that is dedicated just to new construction in O'Fallon if I want to rank for that keyword, new housing developments, O'Fallon. Now, if you're struggling to make your content better once it's already ranking somewhere, we're gonna move on to tip number 3. If your content sounds like the exact same fluffy mumbo jumbo on every other real estate website, you're not gonna get leads. So tip number 3 is you want to make your content different and better. You need to audit your content and make sure you have some of these following things throughout all of your content. Your own voice and opinions without violating fair housing, obviously. Your own original pictures and videos. Your own stories and anecdotes that are based on either your own personal experience or experiences working with clients. And lastly, a high level of nuance that is relevant to the specific part of town you're talking about. So I'm going to first show you an example of an article that's not doing a good job at this, followed by an article that is doing a good job. So first up, here's a not so great example of an article on moving to and living in Lake St. Louis by a moving company. So first up, we just got some basic background information, and what I always hate to see on real estate websites is generic, fluffy content like this. Today, the city is known for 3 public parks and well-planned residential and commercial areas. Lake St. Louis is a great place to live with safe streets, nice homes for sale, and things to do. All of that, minus maybe the 3 parks, you could say that about any city in any part of the world for the most part. You're saying it's a great place to live, it's safe, and it has nice things. That's not very specific. Some other things I want to point out in this article. Okay, here, and this is just because I know Lake St. Louis, the community offers a blend of city, suburban, and rural living. It really doesn't. This is a very suburban part of town. There's not much city and there's not much rural. And again, that line, you could say it for a lot of different areas. Aside from, the fluff, it's not, very accurate. So for example, down here, Lake St. Louis does not have any formal neighborhoods. I mean, I guess I don't really know what they mean when they say a formal neighborhood, but there are absolutely numerous, established subdivisions and neighborhoods that have their own unique style of homes, different amenities, and different things that those neighborhoods are known for. Now, the last thing I want to call out with this article is that there are not many pictures. So the featured image, that's just woods. That could be anywhere. Down here, okay, that is a picture of Lake St. Louis. Scrolling further down, okay, they have the equestrian center. And then the rest, like these could be pictures absolutely anywhere. And then there's the map, obviously. But the thing that I would argue with most real estate content is that adding pictures makes your content highly relevant. And so here's a little mini tip, a tip within a tip, if you will, to get your content to rank. Use original pictures. Use your iPhone to take pictures when you're out on listing appointments or doing showings. Hire someone with a drone to take nice aerial pictures. And then when you upload these pictures on your website, make sure you add a description, a caption, and alt text that contains the name of the town, the city, the neighborhood that you're in. And what that's going to do is help you rank your images on Google. Okay, that's just a quick little tip for you. So that was an example of an article that I'm not really a big fan of. Now, here is another article that I would say is pretty good on living in Lake St. Louis. And this is one of our articles. This is the one that I talked about previously that has gotten some leads. What to know about living in Lake St. Louis in 2025. First up, we have our own original YouTube video here. So if you're making YouTube videos, I highly recommend it. Absolutely use those videos throughout your website. Second of all, you can tell just the written content is specific to Lake St. Louis. We're talking about how it is a master planned community in St. Charles County. It's the only one comprised of 2 man-made lakes. And, to describe the area as a whole, it was developed as a resort community to really give you that waterfront lifestyle that's just 45 minutes outside downtown St. Louis. Second up, you're going to notice we have some pictures. In fact, these are all original pictures. We have an original map that we created for this article. We have pictures of what we're talking about. So clubhouse, boom, clubhouse picture right there. Another clubhouse picture. Another clubhouse picture. Another map. That one's not original. We just added some specific text to it. Example of a Zillow listing, because there's some nuance with how listings are described in Lake St. Louis. Call to action. Have multiple calls to action in your content. There's one main call to action and there's a few other more subtle ones. More pictures, waterfront homes, pictures of fence restrictions specific to Lake St. Louis. And yeah, that's it. Calls to action. You saw that pop-up box. We've also got get in touch with us right there. There's another one somewhere. Contact us right here. Multiple calls to action. Some calls to action, more in your face, like this one, and some that are more subtle, I would say. And to really just highlight some of the nuance I recommend using in your articles and just the level of detail you should aim for. This is a specific section talking about waterfront homes. Waterfront homes in Lake St. Louis are especially sought after, because they are. They can be challenging to find on the open market. Most of the waterfront transactions we've guided were done privately, off market. It can be challenging and quite competitive if you're in the market to buy waterfront in Lake St. Louis. And then that leads into a call to action down here, contact us. But this is the level of nuance I'm talking about. Use your own experience. And if you're maybe a newer agent and you don't have a lot of experience, if you're part of a team or a brokerage that does a lot of business in a certain area, I'm a big fan of the royal we. We sell a lot of homes in this area. We do a lot of off-market business. Leverage other people's experience if you don't have a ton personally. Now, once you've created better content, don't stop there. The next tip I'm going to share is to help you multiply that content and get more out of it. By the way, SEO can be overwhelming, I'm not going to lie, especially if you're new to it. I totally get that. If you have any questions or just want some help, get in touch. Just send me over an email or a text message. I'll see what I can do to help. Let's move on to tip number 4. Now, Google loves when you build a library of content around a topic as opposed to just one article on that topic. So you want to build content in clusters. So choose 2 to 4 core areas, like I mentioned before. These are your bread and butter areas you service clients, and you want to double down on content in those areas specifically. So let's take Wentzville, Missouri, for example. This is another one of the core areas for my agents here in town. We have articles that focus on the following keywords: living in Wentzville, new homes in Wentzville, best neighborhoods to live in Wentzville, sell my house, Wentzville, new commercial developments in Wentzville. Now, if you'll notice, we're taking the core area, which is Wentzville. We're just hitting that area from different angles of content. You've got content focusing on sellers, buyers, new construction buyers, and potentially commercial buyers. So what you want to do here is build out several pages of content that are related to each other, but not the same thing, where you focus on a specific part of town. And then you want to make sure you obviously link all of those articles to each other to build that relevance before you spend time and money trying to build external backlinks to your website from other websites to grow your authority. And here's a quick little tip. If you're looking to create some linkable content, I like data-driven content. Here are some examples of keywords you can focus on. Best neighborhoods in, the wealthiest neighborhoods in, most expensive neighborhoods in, famous people from, that's a fun one, and blank housing statistics or housing statistics in blank, your market. Now, we've covered a lot of the important stuff when it comes to doing proper SEO. Now, let's talk about some technical on-page SEO tips you want to keep in mind. Technical optimization is a small but still important part of your SEO strategy. So tip number 5 is to make sure you optimize like a pro. When you're trying to rank for a specific keyword, you want to make sure that that exact keyword or a variation of it is included in multiple places of your article. The URL, the title tag, the H1 tag, if that's separate from the title tag, because sometimes those are the same. Include it in the first sentence, the first H2, the last sentence of the article, and in the meta description for that article. Now, when I say the keyword or a variation of that keyword, let's take the previous example, living in Lake St. Louis, Missouri. Some variations might be living in Lake St. Louis living, or live in Lake St. Louis, where it's the same idea, just worded differently. Now, if you're looking for a crash course on SEO in the real estate space, be sure to go up and check out this video I have right here, and just let me know if you have any questions about it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.